So hi there, it's Simon for Insert Past Upon here, and today I'm with Organising Secrets. Say hello.
Hey there, everybody.
I say it's a pleasure to have you on. Thanks a lot. So let's kick straight into it then. So let's start off with yourself. Tell me a bit about you.
All right, well, I am organizing secrets. For anyone looking me up later, that's organizing underscore secrets. I'm pretty much solely on No Sleep. I don't know if you've had anyone that solely posted their work just on No Sleep exclusively.
I don't think so. I think we've had a few people who have branched out into actually putting out books and stuff, but no one who exclusively has just done No Sleep.
Exactly. That's what I thought. Yeah. Well, I mean, at work, I've actually been listening to your podcast, all the interviews. So I might have actually listened to some of your interviews more than you have at this
No,
point.
thanks.
Yeah. No worries.
That's judging by the
Uh,
sound quality on some of them, that doesn't surprise me. But
but yeah, so I'm solely on No Sleep. I've been there for 4 years now. Started in April 2013, and I've just kind of kept going since then. Uh, I'm pretty much just known for my series, The Case Files, which is a here I have the word right here. It is an epistolary series.
awesome, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I've been reading through a few of them, and I've really sort of enjoyed the. It feels very much like the SCP Foundation type of stuff, and I really like that sort of stuff. Very
Right,
much.
yeah. Which is interesting. A lot of people made that connection when I first started writing, and when I initially started the series, I didn't know what the SCP Foundation was. I thought it was just a couple of video games that gamer YouTubers played on YouTube, and then later someone linked me, and I'm like, oh god, oh everyone's gonna think I ripped this idea off. And then luckily it didn't happen and stuff, and no one ever accused me of doing that. But that was an initial worry of mine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's So I mean, did you start writing back in 2013, or have you been writing for longer than that?
Okay, well, you had Bridge on for your second or third interview,
That
right?
was it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she and I actually wrote about the same thing for our first thing ever. I also did Sonic the Hedgehog way back as a youngin'. Um, Back when I was 2 or 3, I used to have my child book with child
Yeah.
books with all your little drawings in it and stuff. I used to draw little colored circles, blue, red, and brown, for Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails, and I would have them spin around on the characters, and it'd be this little picture book of stories I did in my head. And
That's
that's
cute.
yeah, that's where I started. Then about around the time I was 8 or 9, I did the same thing, but it was for StarCraft. I would draw little StarCraft mini maps of the units down. I
Nice.
was really weird. Yeah. And then after that, in high school, I started poetry, like really, really bad emo poetry.
We've all been
Uh,
there. We've all been there.
right, right. Yeah, it seems all of us have done that. I took a break, and then 2013, I just started writing from basically nothing, and it just took off, I guess. Had an unnatural amount of success.
Nice. Well, you could definitely can't argue with that. So, I mean, as you say, I mean, it's all sort of the epistolary style. I mean, is that your preferred sort of way of writing? What is it about that style that you really like?
Well, initially, I mean, I had you read correspondence, which I had read just before I started my series. But the reason I did epistolary is because No Sleep has very, very strict guidelines. Your narrators can't be dead. It has to be somewhat believable. I completely went with this framing device, so that I could do cool, crazy stories and kill a bunch of people off, and not have to worry about the narrator rule. And B, because when I started, I wasn't a very good writer in a traditional sense. I didn't go to college for it. I didn't have very good grammar skills.
Hmm.
So I ended up, I used that style because I could just be very blunt, and I didn't have to worry about being a bad writer, I suppose.
Well, no, it makes sense. I mean, you want to sort of play to your strengths almost, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. And as I say, with doing it in that style, you can be very matter of fact. You don't have to worry about too much purple prose almost.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, sure, I've gotten a lot better at that as time goes by, but I still love the style so much. I love epistolary. I don't think I'll ever stray from it too far.
Nice. So, I mean, so who are your sort of inspirations when it comes to writing? Like, what writers do you like to read in your spare time?
Well, I guess we're just gonna say Lovecraft right off the bat. I think all of us have read it. It's stupid. Like I think I listened to every single one of your interviews yesterday because I deliver pizza.
Yeah.
So I just listened. I went through and listened to all of them again, and I think every single other person you had on has said Lovecraft.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
everyone loves
We all love it. I know it's so good. So I'm not gonna go into that. Everyone else already has. King is a new one for me. I used to think I don't want to say I thought he was overrated, but I was never drawn to him. I went and saw It, the new one.
Yeah, it's great.
Loved it. I loved it more than I ever loved the miniseries, and I slowly got into it, and then I realized he had like this big extended universe with like the turtle and like some elder god stuff, and I'm like, oh wait, King has way more depth than I thought he did, and so I'm slowly, I guess, late to the party, but I have a bunch of his whole library, I guess, to get into. So he's new.
Nice. Yeah. No, I've been working through some of them myself, and say I still put Misery absolutely up there, top.
Okay.
Like,
I will have to. Okay, yeah, I'll have to give that one a listen. So far, the two that I really have and I've started reading are The Dark Tower and It. I guess
nice.
is what I jumped into. Yeah, I'm just starting on those, and I really like it. I don't know why I was so, put off by, like, so afraid to read King. I guess I just didn't want to be another horror guy who read Stephen King. Dumb me. You know how it is.
Yeah. That's it. It's so cliche almost.
Right. Let's see. Besides that, Goosebumps. I don't know if anyone else has ever said it on the podcast yet. I read a ton of the Goosebumps books as a kid, and I've got to say those definitely had an impact on me.
They were really big when I was young as well, and I remember them really scaring me at the time.
Right. I think one story in particular. I don't know if you ended up reading Case File 3. That was the one with the pictures and everyone getting abducted.
Oh right, no, I didn't actually read that one yet.
Okay, yeah. Well, there's a Goosebumps story about a camera, and if it takes your picture, you die like a week later or something.
I remember that one.
That was a direct influence for that story. And then lately, I've been toying around with doing an idea similar to the Beast from the East book, where a monster tags the main character, and he has to explore a fantasy, like a fantasy setting. And if he doesn't find this monster before the time runs out, the monster kills him. And I'd be like, that's a really good idea. I should do that, but less for 10-year-olds. But besides that, I'm actually way less influenced by horror writers and way more by horror media. I actually got my start and started because Marble Hornets, the Slender Man series.
Oh, nice. I actually only just finished the Marble Hornets series, and
okay.
It blew my mind.
Yeah, me too. No, I would say all the different Slender series out there, Marble Hornets, Tribe 12, Everyman Hybrid. I got really big into those in, what was that? What would have been late 2010 for me. Mm-hmm. And that's actually what got me into horror. I didn't like horror until I was already 18 years old.
Yeah.
And then, I found all the Slender Man stuff, and it just got me going down a rabbit hole, and eventually I went back and discovered everything. But I would say that the Slender Man stuff is another reason why I kind of write epistolary to sort of emulate that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So, so what get deep then? What scares you? Sort of like what stuff is always going to sort of get your heart racing?
I'm creepy over straight up scary any day. Let's see, like Woman in Black, starring Daniel Radcliffe, right?
Oh yeah.
There's that one scene where he's looking out the window and she's just standing behind him. That's the kind of stuff that gets me. If the monster's not doing anything, it's just there. Like the movies that have scared me the most, I think, are the Grudge series.
Oh yeah. That terrified me when I first saw those.
Right, I just got done writing, I think, 5 different Onryo-based stories, which is the type of ghost the Grudge is. And I've actually may have killed my main character organizing secrets. He might not be alive right now as we're doing this interview. So maybe this is a post-humorous interview.
It happens. Unless you see a body, though, it's never definite.
That's true. No one's found my body yet, so who knows? But, yeah, so on that end, that's what I find the scariest. But I actually enjoy slasher films the best. I love watching, like, Friday the 13th and just watching Jason Voorhees, cut through some counselors.
That's
my favorite.
Nice. Yeah, yeah. No, I've just been on a massive Nightmare on Elm Street binge recently. Like,
Okay.
started at the beginning, worked my way through, watched Johnny Depp
Yes.
get murdered. That's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
I love it. Yeah, I like the justification that I can root for the monster because all of the humans are just such shitty individuals.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And it's proper classic horror as well. I mean, that's what got me into it. It was
Oh, for sure.
yeah, yeah. So so yeah, so in terms of the stuff you've been writing, then you've been doing this the Case Files series. So what first of all, what made you go for like a whole series?
Okay, well, I guess we'll go with a little bit of backstory. Initially, the Case Files was just going to be like a little 5 to 10 story, like whatever, little post thing, in the same style I do it in now. Because I was actually starting a Slenderman series with my girlfriend at the time. And Organizing Secrets was just supposed to be this background character who would get involved in the series, and then he would die, but we'd have his files to like look into the paranormal. Obviously, the series never happened, and instead I went full bore with Organizing Secrets and the Case Files. So that's kind of how I got my start.
Nice. No, that makes sense. And obviously you've got the sort of it's now a wiki. You've got everything sorted out on there. So what made you take it this far? Because a lot of people would just write the stories and leave it there.
Right, yeah, I know. Like 4 years now, I've hit. I think I'm either at 39 or 40 individual stories, even though they aren't numbered subsequently. But I think I might be the longest series on No Sleep now. I think I finally passed Correspondence, but I just kind of kept up with it because when I first started writing, after I wrote like the first 4 stories, I knew that this is for sure. It was just going to be like what I was going to do. The YouTube series was already dead in my mind, and we were just going to go with this. I wrote out a whole big plot line, all the major plot points, and I still haven't gotten to the end of that yet, so I'm still working towards it.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, that's actually what I plan to have all of my major plot points that I thought of back when I first started the series done by the end of Case File 40. So within like the next couple months, I will finally hit the end content for my initial season 1 of Case Files.
Well, so, and as I really enjoy the whole, cause I mean, you've clearly sort of geared it all towards kind of no sticks. I've seen in a lot of the comments and stuff, you'll still stay in character as per the rules. And
Oh yeah, whole time I went full bore with the being in character thing, and I think that sort of helped me get a let's see, loyal audience of sort. Like, I mean, I started out back in the day. I was like, what, 600? I think I have 600 views on the Hysteria project, or 600 upvotes
yeah,
on the Hysteria project. Yeah, that I had you read, but that was, and not to toot my own horn a bit, because I don't. I think I'm an okay writer, nothing great.
It's what we're here for. If you can't take your own horn here, where else?
Okay. But yeah, that was back in the day, 600 upvotes when Pen Pal was like the best thing on the site, and Pen Pal series only had like 1,000, a little over that.
Yeah.
So I came in strong. Obviously now posts on there get like 2,000, 3,000 upvotes every day, and I'm sitting there at a constant about 200 now.
Right,
so I'd like to think that my initial burst is out of the way, and I have a nice core following because I'm staying in character with them, and it's nice.
Nice. And are you working on any more right now, or?
Actually, yeah. I mean, I know I told you that I just woke up personally, but 5 hours ago, I was sitting here working on 3 different files.
Oh wow, you animal, 3 at once.
Once I know, I get a little bouncy with my ideas. Like, I'll be working on one, and I'll get an idea for another one, so I just immediately have to shift over and start writing out those paragraphs.
Nice. So let's talk about the one you sent over then. So, as I say, it's case file number 4, the Hysteria project, right?
Yeah, correct.
Cool. So, what I'm going to do, I'm sure you know, but just for the people listening, I'll stick a link to it in the description. We can get as spoilery as you like. So, if you're listening, press pause, read it first, and then listen to us talk about it and probably spoil it quite heavily. So first of all, now we've got the spoiler warning out of the way. Give us an overview of
All right.
one.
All right, so for anyone else watching, by the way, I know it's the fourth story in the series, but a lot of this stuff is standalone, so you can read this case file without having to read the first three. So yeah, let's jump into it. So this is the first story I did where it was a like a big spooky science experiment by my big bad guys, Organization 440. They're kind of they're very much the Umbrella Corporation, but slightly more supernatural from Resident Evil.
Yeah.
So they're kind of the big spooky evil corporation. So they're doing experiments on otherworldly entities, and they're trying to create their own super soldiers to combat them. So that is what happens here. There's a man in charge. Let's see. I know his Harry Marlowe.
Yeah.
And he ends up with a bunch of test subjects. Let me see. I believe it is 60 volunteers and 60 non-volunteers. These are people that, 60 volunteers are all people who know what's going to happen to them. They know that horrible stuff's going to happen. And the 60 non-volunteers are, prisoners, abductees, stuff like that. And he subjects them to paranormal particles, which is a sort of a... it's a term that I came up with in the third story, so it's a little nod to anyone who reads the third story. They're like, oh, hey, you brought that thing back. And he makes all these people go through these different particles, both positive and negative, and then he actually takes matter from an entity that they capture back in Case File 1, and he takes like bits of their flesh and just puts it into these people just to see what would happen. Yeah, dude has no chill.
Yeah. Let's just give it a go, see what happens.
Exactly. Yeah, I was reading back through it again, and I'm like, wow, the way I wrote Harry Marlowe, he really just looks like a big hands-on crazy science. Like, doesn't even think. He's just like, let's just throw stuff into people's bodies, see what happens.
Yeah, I've got no hypothesis here. Let's just see what happens.
Right, and then it ends up working well for him, though, because as his research notes go, he eventually ends up creating a bunch of cool entities. The first batch is a bunch of people end up dying, obviously. That's what happens when you put spooky stuff into someone's body. So people die. The only issue is that they don't stay dead. A bunch of these bodies end up reanimating with very special traits based on the type of particles that he put into their bodies, between the positive or negative particles. And he gets what he dubs mannequins. He gets both positive mannequins, sorrow mannequins, and rage mannequins. And these things are kind of like weird zombies. They have like that weird after-image effect that some kind of ghosts have. And he seems to think that they can train them. It's pretty much a happy accident, and it turns his failures into a positive. And those are things I actually explore in a whole different story later on. But it's just a cool little idea I had when writing it, so they got slipped in here.
Nice.
Then he continues the experiments, right? He sees his mannequins. He's like, okay, these are cool, but what about all my subjects I still have alive? So then he starts infusing them with more particles, throwing more matter into their body, and observing even more changes. The vast majority of the test subjects die, and then he has a couple of small groups left. Let's see. Here, I actually have it up with me right now because I wanted to go through everything. It's been what, 4 years since I wrote this, man.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So out of the positive volunteers, there are only 2 survivors, both twin little girls. Apparently, the rest of the positive volunteers had all died off because something was killing them in their sleep. When asked why these 2 girls survived, they said that they were only surviving because one could watch out for whatever was killing the people in their sleep while the other one slept, so they take turns sleeping. And they end up developing like psionic powers because of this, and are dubbed Aegis 1 and Aegis 2 because of it. Our next group is the positive non-volunteers. These end up becoming like stalkers, and I end up using stalkers a bunch. They kind of become like my go-to entity for when Organization 440 is like attacking other groups, because like Europe has their own Organization 440 analog, and this organization 440 will just be like, hey, we're going to throw stalkers in your research bases and watch them tear you apart. Good luck with that. So stalkers are cool. They're kind of like I don't want to directly say like I ripped off like the Lickers from Resident Evil, but they're like a big spindly entity. They've got extra arms, like a shark-like head, and they're just creepy, jumpy motherfuckers.
Nice, yeah. Cause you've got artwork to go along with this, haven't you? Like,
Yeah. There were a couple of pictures down there. So if you do read the story for yourselves, dear listener, you'll be able to click on the links on there at the bottom. Yeah, and you'll see exactly what I mean with them. Let's see. Then after that, we had the Negative Volunteers. And these are 3 men that had volunteered to be in this big spooky research project. They end up becoming hulking beings that are dubbed Titans. And unfortunately, to make another Resident Evil reference, these are all directly references to like the Tyrant, Nemesis, the big Hulk monsters from Resident Evil. When writing this story, I really must have been playing some Resident Evil. I just look back and the references are all there. But that was my general idea for them. I mean, they're not like a straight analog to like the Tyrant, but they were something similar. And then Subject 4, this was the one survivor from the Negative Non-Volunteers. They get one man who survives, and they end up calling him Savant. And he ends up being the metahuman that the project was hoping to create. Marlowe goes on and on about how this guy is exactly what they were hoping to create the entire time, as a perfect fusion of man and the paranormal. And this guy's got, like, the whole gambit of powers. He's got, like, enhanced reflexes, speed. He's kind of got, like, the weird Jedi hypnotic, I can tell you what to do and you'll do it power.
Yeah.
And I kind of imply that maybe because he was a non-volunteer, meaning they took him from his home, wherever it was, maybe he's not going to be willing to play ball here in the future when he learns the full extent of his powers.
Yeah. And as I say, with Lothar, he actually seemed like a fairly nice guy to hang out with as well, aside from the whole being able to talk you into killing yourself business.
Yeah, it seemed like it, right? Yeah, he was very polite, and he never lashed out at Organization 440, but I tried to imply that there's maybe we shouldn't trust this guy, because maybe he still doesn't like us, even though we gave him superpowers.
Yeah.
As far as the story goes, it also goes into they end up doing like a live fire testing thing where they trick like mercenaries into fighting the entities, and you get to see the full run of their powers there. It's pretty cool. Unfortunately, I don't want to say unfortunately, but because of the way the story's written, no real twists. There's no spooky ending. Marlowe creates a bunch of cool, scary monsters with the promise that we'll get to see them fully in action at a later date.
Nice, yeah, and I suppose that's the advantages of doing like a series like this, is that you can bring these characters and then at some point bring them out of the mothballs and say, yeah, these things are going to get intense now.
That's exactly how it is. I've actually brought back Stalkers a few times, like I told you. The Aegis twins actually just made an appearance 2 stories ago that I wrote, where they actually have to take back a facility that like this weird puppet entity ends up taking over. It's like an entity versus entity, because this puppet ends up taking over every single person in the facility, and the Aegis twins are just ripping people apart with their psionic powers, and it's pretty.
I can't wait to get to that one. That sounds epic.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I have like a big list of everything I haven't used yet. So Titans are still on the board. Savant still got his hidden agenda that I want to play with, and yeah, there's just the promise of more.
Nice. So what gave you the idea for this one then?
Well, like I said, it was very much a Resident Evil inspired thing. There's no getting around the fact that a lot of my stuff is inspired by other media. But I had, back when I first started the series, I knew that I needed to portray Organization 440 as being more evil. Through the first 3 files, people, they didn't see it like I did. I don't think I made the organization as initially evil as I wanted to. So I purposely created this one where they basically did Nazi science.
Yeah.
I mean, this was them just saying we're going to do bad stuff to good people, and just because we can. I just wanted to get the point across that they were all about non-ethical science.
Nice.
And People loved it. To date, I think this is still my most popular story, and I know a lot of people say that they regret their older stuff or are embarrassed by it. I think I've always been trying to recapture the success of this story.
Well, I know the feeling. I think the first story I posted on No Sleep got something like 450 upvotes, and I was very happy with it.
Oh,
and
nice.
Nothing I've done since then has ever come close.
Yep, I hear you. Yep, 600 votes from here, and then it all went down.
Yeah. Always
I feel you.
Chasing that initial success.
Yeah, chasing that high, that 600 high.
Exactly. So with this one, I mean, where did you start? I mean, did you have an idea of the creatures to begin with and right up to there, or?
No, I did not know. So for the first 4 case files, this is when I first started out, I wrote each one in a day. I wrote case file 1, posted it, and then the next day I was working on case file 2, posted that. Then the day after that, I wrote case file 3, posted that. For those 3, I had already thought of the entities ahead of time and was going to try and use them in my original YouTube series. For this one, I just sat down on my 4th day of being a No Sleep writer and just started writing my creepy little hysteria project, and just the entities just started kind of popping up on their own.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't always. I do a very, I want to say a healthy mix of planned and unplanned writing. Sometimes I go in and I know exactly what I'm going to do. The Hysteria project is the complete opposite. I went in knowing that I wanted a bunch of creepy entities, but not knowing what any of them were going to be until I got to their paragraph.
Nice. I'm always impressed when people can do that, because I'm I have to have the ending. I nearly always start with like the last line of any given story and then have to work up to that. And I'm always impressed when people can come out with this stuff organically.
Right. I can understand that. Like the 3 stories I was writing last night, they are all, I have the ending written out and I'm working towards it. But Hysteria Project was not that.
Yeah. So did you have any sort of issues crop up whilst you were writing it? I mean, did you get stuck at any point, or was it all a fairly smooth process for this one?
No. Initially, for the first, I would say, 10 or 15 files, I never got stuck on anything. If I sat down to write, I could write the whole story out in one go. I didn't start getting stuck with stuff until later, when I hit like the early 20s. I've hit the point where I'll get to a paragraph and I'm like, okay, I have to go walk a mile because I can't think of what to do next.
Yeah. and is that what you normally do when you do come across any sort of roadblocks?
Yeah, I didn't notice it, but whenever I stop writing because I want to think about something, the first thing I do is I stand up and I start pacing and I walk around the house. And it's not something I knew I did until just recently. So yeah, the second I can't think of what to write, I stand up immediately and start walking around.
Nice. So this one again, like obviously as you say, you wrote it back in 2013. I mean, looking back on it, is there anything you'd change about it now?
No, I don't think so. There's a little bit of wording here and there that I would spruce up. I'd make Harry Marlowe a bit more of an intellectual than I did here. Because I write him as such later on, because he keeps popping up. He's a reoccurring character, and I give him a more scholarly tone. Right here, he's more like Professor Hojo from Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
But later, that's kind of how he's supposed to be here. Later, I kind of give him like a little Colonel Sanders Southern plantation owner feel too, just to give him a bit more character. So he's kind of like a weird Professor Hojo Colonel Sanders mix.
Awesome.
So I would like to get that changed. Actually, that is something that will be changing. I forgot it's even happening. My first 20 files have actually been to an editor over the past 4 months. I get them back in 3 days, and I get to start publishing my book.
Oh, nice. Well, I was going to ask you. I mean, so you're going to put these together into an actual book, put it out for release?
Yes. Yep. First 20 are all going to go. First 20 files are all going into a volume 1. I even forgot to mention that. It's about 90,000 words so far.
Nice.
It's a nice little novel length. I was pretty happy about it. No plans for when to release it yet, which is, no big deal. That's why I'm not too cut up about not mentioning it, because I don't even know if I want to self-publish or try to look for a publisher. But I mean, all the art's done. I have every single entity. I have a drawing for it, an illustration of some sort. Title's done, everything. So yeah, just gotta Hope for the best there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and with the illustrations you have, I mean, do you do all those yourself, or do you get someone else in to do them? Or?
No, I ended up having a fan, this one very nice lady over in Cali, I believe, California, and she was a huge fan of my work, and she's a professional graphic artist. So she kind of free of charge just did everything for me.
Nice.
And as soon as the book comes out, I'm sure I'll be extolling her praises nonstop, linking her everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Hopefully to get her some business because she did God's work for me.
Nice, nice. And
I'm sure, yeah.
Cool. And cool. Do you want to mention her now, or?
Well, let me look. I can't remember her username for the life of me right now.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good.
No, it's okay. While we're talking, I'll look it up. She actually just messaged me a couple days ago, so I will find it so that I can tell people what her Reddit username is.
Nice, nice. That's cool. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much all the questions I had for your story. I mean, and so let's move on to the other one you sent over, which is the correspondence series.
Correspondence, my favorite. This is maybe my favorite bit of horror media in my entire life. Is the correspondence series.
That's it. I mean, I was saying to you before, like I'd say I'd never heard of this before you mentioned it, and I started reading it, and I've smashed through the first sort of section of it. Like,
oh yeah,
like this morning. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think that's the benefit to you not being on No Sleep. Bloodstains and Correspondence is kind of secretly in the little No Sleep holy grail of stuff, and because you're newer, I think you missed out on that, so it's cool that you get to dive into it now.
Well, exactly. I mean, I've spent all this time hanging out on the Creepypasta wiki, and sort of I've never really considered No Sleep, and now I'm in it. I'm like, wow. I love the instant gratification you get from the story.
Oh, it's so nice. I know.
But there's just so much that I had no idea was out there, and it's expanding my mind no end. So give us sort of vague overview of again, spoilers if you want. The link will be in the description, whatever. So yeah, give us an overview of the series generally.
All right, so Correspondence is just like my series, being that it inspired my series. It's all epistolary. It's all emails, phone calls, and whatnot between various people. The deal with Correspondence, though, is that it entirely deals with a demon and possession. The demon called Abalam, I believe.
Yeah. In fact, I saw in the comments there was I think for almost every story there's somebody going, "Whoa, Black Betty."
Yeah, yeah. It kind of became the running meme with this story. And you got to remember, this was already a meme and a series by the time I started reading on No Sleep, because Correspondence was posted way back in 2011. And I didn't get there till 2013, so this guy was already a legend by the time I popped up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so. It starts out with emails from two friends. One of them moved off to college. The other one stayed home to, work a factory job or whatever. They talk about stuff. Things get slightly creepy because there's like some corrupted text in their email messages. And the one friend who stayed home mentioned that he got lost after leaving a party with his girlfriend, and they ran into this old woman, and now they're getting stalked by this old woman. Eventually, the guy who got stalked, his emails corrupt even further, and he starts saying like mean and creepy stuff to his friend that's away at college, and they end up they stop talking. The one friend gets real mad. He's like, "Why are you saying bad stuff about my family and stuff? Like, whatever, we're done." And then the guy back home who's been getting quote-unquote haunted or stalked by the old lady goes missing. And that's the end of the first part of Correspondence. Later on, we find out that, hey, he got super murdered.
Like, not just regular murdered.
No, they found, I was reading it last night, like I said, to refresh myself. They found blood around his anus, implying, trauma down there, rape. Some sort, and I forgot all about that. I was reading it again, and I was like, "Oh, that's so good, so bad." So yeah, the friend back home ends up dying due to, they call it a ritualistic suicide, and everyone who knows the dude's like, "No, he's not the kind of guy who would kill himself." So they all start investigating, and then the friend back in college ends up starting to see spooky stuff himself, which leads to him going missing, but he goes missing while he's talking to the girlfriend of the original guy. So then she starts getting haunted, and that's kind of the whole deal with correspondence. Abalam kind of just moves on to the next person, and the only little bit of the only pattern I would say is that you either have to be in close proximity or in communication with the original person getting stalked. And if you do that, Abalam's like, "Sure, fam, I guess you're next. Put you on the spook list."
Yeah. That's it. Sorry, well, that's what really got me about this one is the fact that it's so infectious and the fact that it sort of just jumps into people and takes them over. It reminds me a bit, actually, of I mean, you know, the creepypasta Ben Drowned and there's that whole sort of ARG thing that went along with it. And as I say, which essentially boils down to, instantly, now you're all going to get done by this. And that's what, I mean, I say, as far as I've got in the story so far, I say, as I said to you, I'm only up to Revelation so far, but I'm just waiting for that point where it's like, and instantly, it's coming for you. And, like, because it does sort of mention that the person who's posting it in on No Sleep is the username is actually involved in the stuff that's going on, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah, it says Bloodstains a lot. I don't know if you caught it in, I think, Correspondence 6 or 7, in some of the corrupted text, it actually calls out the person reading the story at the time, so you or me, and it says that it will come and get you next. So we've technically been marked already.
Oh, that is a nightmare.
Yeah, I don't... Correspondence 5, I'm looking at it right now, and it says, just as you sit there, you shall be called upon. And it's just hidden in all the corrupted text. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess I'm next.
Awesome.
So, yeah, we did get called out. And I forgot to mention, after it's done spooking those people out, the two friends and the girlfriend, it actually just jumps to the neighbors, the people who live right beside the house, who have never even met the kid before. And it's like, you live next to the house, so I guess I'll start haunting you.
That's it. And so what is it about this one then that really does it for you?
It was the style, the epistolary style. This is the first time I'd seen this style in text. I'd seen it before in all the different Slenderman series. I guess as a 18 to 21-year-old is what I would have been around back then. I'd never read a story like this. I didn't know that you could do written word as emails and text messages and stuff, and it blew my mind. And it was just like, this is how I can write.
Nice, yeah, because I've seen about now you can actually get like you can get like programs and stuff that will actually act as which I think is amazing for the whole sort of. I
saw on the No Sleep the Out of Character subreddit that a guy made an app just to make stories that are told between text messages, and I was like, oh my god, like it's finally happening. Epistolary's getting more mainstream. I'm kind of excited about it.
That's it, definitely. So. And so what do you think sort of works well within this one?
In this story in particular, one of the things that I like a lot about Correspondence is character voice. I feel like each character feels like their own character. Whoever Bloodstains is, they have no issue writing different voices for the characters. I don't feel like they have the same character problem that a lot of us writers do.
Yeah. Because essentially it's a story that's almost entirely dialogue, isn't it? Aside from like police reports, things like that. And I don't know about you, but when I'm writing, I avoid dialogue like the plague. I just try and not write it if I can make it take place in someone's head.
Yep. That's exactly what I do. That's why I have a ton of little journal entries. I'm just like, this is one man doing a journal entry, and he's just going to be like, this person was angry, this person was happy. We don't need exact words because I don't need same character face.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and the other thing I liked about that is how it does flip between sort of giving you obscene, gory details of stuff that's happening, whilst also holding back on a lot of stuff. Like
I agree.
Because you've got the guy who's who gets murdered, and you obviously, as you say, you get the graphic detail about him more or less probably getting raped by a demon.
Yeah, he was sodomized by a demon. There's no getting around that. I hear you. And then you're right, because the other guy, they don't go into detail at all. He just kind of says spooky stuff's happening, and then he's gone. So I get you.
Exactly, yeah. And the neighbour really got me when he's talking about how he's got a wife and a kid, and then suddenly sort of like forgets he's got a wife and a child, and then it's like, and he's like, is that what's chained up in my basement? That sort of thing. It's like, and it's just almost a throwaway line, but it just makes you go, ugh.
Yeah, exactly. No, I hear you completely. Yeah, you're right. Bloodstains. I'm at this point, I'm pretty sure Bloodstains is an alternate account for someone else who writes on No Sleep, but I haven't pinned down who it is. But whoever they are, they know how to balance graphic gore and then switch it over to creepy spook style.
Yeah,
as it were.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. So I say with the series, I mean, how does this influence your own writing aside from obviously the style? I mean, what do you take from that you wish that you could build into your own stuff?
It was the world building. I think Bloodstains. I don't want to say he because I have no idea gender, but they are very good at. They'll make I don't want to say a throwaway line, but what feels to me could have been a throwaway line about a character, and then that character will pop up later, or they'll mention a place, and that place will pop up later. Like I said, the one character gets lost and sees that old woman way back at the beginning of the story. Later on, they actually mention the house that he saw the old lady in front of, and they go into the house, and the house gets a backstory, whereas it was just a throwaway place in the initial first batch of correspondence stories. I really liked the world building, and it's something I ended up taking from it too. I really tried to just throw in throwaway characters or mention vague things, and then bring that back as the focus later.
Nice, yeah. I know. I mean, that's something that I've always been trying and not. I mean, I haven't done a series as yet, but I've always been trying and so far failing to do is have that, be able to have that thing and suddenly be like, oh, and instantly there's relevance to this. But,
Right.
Nice. So I think that's pretty much it for the correspondence series. Now let's come to probably my favourite bit of the interviews is always the scene in general. So so do you yourself read a lot of other people's stories?
I keep it. I don't want to say it to a bare minimum, but I don't read as much as I used to. And a lot of that isn't because the scene's gotten bad or anything. It's that I personally, and I've been told this is silly by a bunch of other guys in the community, but I'm personally so afraid to read someone's story and then be influenced by it to such an extent like I was with correspondence that it feels like I'm ripping people off or taking their ideas.
No, that makes sense. And so, in your opinion, what makes creepypasta or like stories like this, and what makes them good?
I mean, quality, obviously. I still think being a decent writer beats out a good idea the majority of the time. If your grammar and your writing are there and you have like a tried and true but nothing too creative idea, I think I would much prefer that story as to hey, I have a brand new idea, but I can't capitalize any letters and there's tons of grammar mistakes. So I think just a well put presentation is the first thing that gets me personally.
Nice. And what's most likely sort of put you off creepypasta aside from obviously the grammar stuff? Are there any sort of like themes or ideas that will just make you go, no, I'm now completely out of this?
Not in general. On No Sleep, I don't necessarily like the video game pastas that will pop up on No Sleep.
Oh yeah, those come up, that comes up all the time as something that people hate is the video game ones.
Right, I don't hate them at all. I think Ben Drowns is amazing. There was the Lavender Town one way back in the day. I do think there's a lot of really good ones, but I think that's the type of story that the younger creepypasta audience, those are the stories they latch on to. So that's why the quality of them are, I think, lower compared to other kinds of tropes, because I think the younger 12 and 13-year-olds latch on to those, and that's the stories we're getting from the 12 and 13-year-olds.
I suppose right for your audience, but
right, but maybe not a No Sleep.
yeah.
No. Anyone can write whatever they want. I just, No Sleep's a tough crowd. Moderators will crack down on stuff super hard there.
Oh, I think it's happening a lot at the moment with the creepypasta scene in general.
Is it?
People. Yeah, I mean, certainly on the wiki and some other places where if you write, especially like a video game pasta, it has to be something spectacular before they're going to let it through.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm actually working on my own video game case file now, and I'm so happy and scared at the same time because I wonder if it's going to not pass regulations. Yeah, no, I'm doing a virtual reality MMO thing, not based on a current game. I'm making up a game for it, but I'm hoping it works out.
Nice, yeah, no, it's one of the ideas that I've had knocking around for a while. Is I've really wanted to do almost sort of in your sort of style, a company that makes these haunted games
Yeah.
and has a game that the actual version reviewed so badly that no one will buy the haunted version of this game. So
Oh,
they're stuck with a load of them. That's my idea. And it's
nice.
yet to turn into any story as yet. But one
Well,
day.
I think it has promise because that's generally the same idea I have is just get a bunch of beta testers, some company memos, and just tell a story about a haunted video game before it even gets out there to be found at a garage sale.
Nice, yeah, exactly. They've got to come from somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah. Someone manufactured the damn cartridge.
Exactly, got it through quality testing.
Yeah. 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 Who QA'd my Lavender Town Pokemon game? That's what I want to know. That's the real story.
That's it. It's like, oh, everyone died. It must have been because it was that good. But
No, push it. We gotta push Lavender Town for SummerSlam.
that's it. The suicide dollar. It's a big dollar. But
Yeah.
so I mean, obviously with horror and stuff, it's notoriously quite a trope heavy genre. I mean, what's your opinion on tropes generally? Are you for them, against them? Can they be done right?
I love tropes. I think they're the best thing ever. I think everyone should familiarize themselves with the tropes so that they can flip said tropes on their head. I mean, I'm the kind of guy who goes to TV tropes and then I read for hours.
Yeah.
To educate myself. I'll go to any horror movie and I'll be like, after I watch the movie, I'm like, okay, I'm going to learn the tropes, and then I do. I constantly try to flip things up. Like a couple months ago, I wrote a story about werewolves. However, I set it back in the early 90s, back when like UFC was starting, and I have a man turn into a werewolf during a cage fight in an underground illegal bar fight, and he just starts ripping people up. And yeah, it's not a traditional take on a werewolf, but it starts out at the beginning with him being this weakling, and then he suddenly starts showing up for subsequent fights after he gets a bite mark on his shoulder, and he starts winning more often, and then he starts killing people, and it leads the whole way up to the transformation in his final fight where he rips people to pieces and then chews his way out of the cage and runs out the bar. And it was just, I wanted to do werewolf. I just knew I didn't want to do werewolf in the woods, so I did werewolf in a cage fight.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I think, and that's just not to toot my horn. I know you said it's cool, but that's the kind of stuff I like to see from people. Take something, a familiar creature like the werewolf, put it in a weird place, and have strange things happen that no one's really done with it before.
That's it. Yeah. Yes. Again, one of the ones that floats around sometimes with the people I chat with is instead of a werewolf having a were-person, so like you've got a wolf that turns into a person once a month and is trying to work out all these.
That's a good idea too. I never thought about that.
Oh, it's mine. It's mine. You can't have it. You can't.
That's cool. I've hit my lichen quota for the year. You've got like a year safety net before I'll think. 2018 bets are off.
That's it. I better get to it. So in terms of the sort of scene in general, like what I mean, especially because there are a lot of stuff now that is it's becoming quite mainstream. I'd say No Sleep's blown up. You're getting the films, you're getting the TV shows, all based on various online horror stories. I mean, what do you think of the whole scene at the moment?
I mean, I don't mind it too much. I don't really tell many people this because nothing happened to it, but I actually sold the film rights to the Case Files way back in 2013.
Oh, nice.
I ended up getting myself $2,000, nice at the time. I'd been writing for 5 months, so $2,000 was good. Yeah. It never went anywhere. The studio ended up going under. They bought it. I've heard they also ended up buying the rights to a couple of other different horror series and just never did anything with any of them. But I think I get the rights back here in October, and it is what it is. I made $2,000 of it, and no one ever approached me again for the film rights. But I think it's awesome. Channel Zero is starting up, right?
That's
it. Pretty soon.
First episode's already out, I think. And then the second one was out yesterday. I can't remember now, but it's definitely recently.
I haven't been keeping up with it. I saw the initial post on it. I will be watching all that, but I think it's great personally. I know a lot of people. They have their little prized thing, their fandom or whatever, and they don't want it to go mainstream because they want it to be theirs. I am on the opposite end of that spectrum. I want horror and creepypasta writing and internet horror to be as popular as it can get. I want more content in general. So I think it's amazing that movies are getting made all the time now, and people are getting optioned for series, and No Sleep has people writing for Netflix now, and I love that this community and the creepypasta community in general is getting so much of a public eye, and that we are held in much more of a respect than we were back in, say, 2010, when we were just kind of passing around Smile Dog JPEG and giggling.
Yeah. And just because it's a subject that I know is quite contentious, and people have a lot of different views on it. And the sort of narrations you get on YouTube, is that something that you're aware of? You had any good stuff narrated? What do you think of it?
I have had stuff narrated before. Everyone asked me ahead of time, so I was like, yeah, sure, go for it. You had... Oh, I feel bad now. You had another guy on. You posted his interview yesterday or 2 days ago. Your most recent interview.
Oh yeah. That was Shadow Swimmer 77.
Yes. That was a great interview. I really like his accent too. I was sitting there listening in my car, and I'm like, I love this man's accent. But him and I, we had. I don't want to say slightly different opinions, because for the most part, I agree with him. Any exposure is good exposure, I feel. And for the most part, I wouldn't mind people taking my stuff without asking me. I think the issue that I see pop up on No Sleep, and he didn't address this, and maybe he hasn't seen it, or maybe he was just on a different page. He said a lot of people on No Sleep are against people narrating without getting permission. The thing I've seen is people narrating without getting permission and then not crediting the author.
Yeah.
I kind of agreed with him that any exposure is good exposure, and I agree with that entirely if your name's on it. But a lot of people in No Sleep have been up in arms lately, because more frequently than ever, people are just posting the stories with no links back, no credit given to the original person. And I don't want to say No Sleep's like the prissy place for horror writers to go, but there are a lot of talented people there, and I understand that they get somewhat up in arms about it.
Well, exactly. I mean, especially with YouTube, I know they've had the adpocalypse, all of this sort of stuff, but I mean, with people monetizing the videos, so they're just essentially making money off of your work.
Right.
At least they could do is credit you for it.
Exactly. Like I said, if they make money off of it, hey, that's cool. More power to you. Just throw my name on it somewhere, and I don't need permission. Like, you don't need to ask me for it. Just go ahead and do it. Throw my name on it. Link back to the file. Go ahead and make your millions. But yeah, it's the when they don't credit person is when I agree that the maybe quote unquote witch hunt is okay. Maybe that's you can go and say, hey, take this down, or I'm going to talk to YouTube. That's where my line is drawn. It's just credit. You can't get credit for something if sure, you like he said, you have your proof that you posted the story, but I just think I would rather they linked me right at the beginning to begin with. And
well, that's it. Otherwise, it's just a hassle. And
yeah, exactly. It's a hassle at that point. I agree. So on one hand, I'm all about the free advertising. On the other hand, just give me the proper credit. That's my stance on the whole narrations.
That's fair enough. So, it was briefly on sort of like my final question then, and it's for obviously people who are in your position back in 2013 who were wanting to write their own sort of stuff. What do you wish you'd known back then that you now know about writing?
Consistency. I have taken maybe 3 hiatuses from writing over the past 4 years. Some of them because I was having issues writing, or life was hard, and one of them was because all my computers broke and I just did not have a way to write for 10 months. I think that's a lot of what hurt my series in general, and is the reason why I went from 600 upvotes down to my middling 200 now. Consistency. If you constantly get your name out there week after week, so that people can see you constantly posting stuff, assuming that you're putting in the work and are improving, people will notice you eventually.
Nice.
Like that, it will happen. I know a lot of people will post a couple things, get like their 2 upvotes, and they quit. No, you got to keep getting at it. Like a lot of these guys, if you go back to a lot of the No Sleep legends at this point, a lot of them have their first stories have like 50 upvotes or less, and then suddenly one of their stories finally hit like the 2,000 mark, and they just never go back down. once your name finally sticks up there through consistency, you've pretty much got your golden goose. Like, you have your audience. So just keep going with it. Keep writing. Keep posting.
Nice. Cool. Well, I'd say thanks a lot for taking time to speak to me. I really appreciate it, and it's been great talking to you. As I've been doing recently, I'll give you the last few minutes. If there's anything you want to plug, where can people find you? Where do you want people to go to look at your stuff? Now's your time to do it.
All right, I don't have much to my name so far. Like I think I told you in my emails, I've just started branching out to the creepypasta community in general. I finally want to get my name out there so we don't have another Bloodstains incident where they're such a prolific writer and you had never heard of them before. I'm trying to make sure that doesn't happen to me, so I'm trying to get out there more. I am only on No Sleep and Facebook right now. No Sleep, I'm organizing _secrets. You'll find me in the No Sleep subreddit. Put in my username, go back to Case File 1, and just start reading stuff. I mean, he's put the links down below. My Facebook is @secrets440, and every time I post a file on No Sleep, I always post it to Facebook right afterwards. So if you don't check No Sleep regularly, it's a good way to keep up with anything I post. And when my book stuff does happen, whenever that's going to be, because I'm not 100% sure on that yet, that's where all that information will be too. I'll be covering that Facebook page with book stuff.
Nice. And you've also got your wiki as well.
Also, I have the Case Files wiki. Yes, it's not updated up to the newest files yet. I think I'm about 7 or 8 files behind right now, but there's a ton of information on there, and it's just like me collecting information on all of the supernatural entities I have, and kind of a lot of world building there. I talk about a lot of the organizations in the world. I go into a lot of the stuff happening over in Europe and stuff, because most of the case files take place in the United States. But I made sure to build a bit of world building over in Europe and over in Japan, and a lot of that can be found on the Case Files wiki. So I believe if you put in the Case Files wiki, it's one of the first that pop up in your search engine of choice.
Nice. I've actually got the address up in front of me here: case-file.wikia.com.
Thank you.
I'm so prepared. But as I've only just sort of scratched the surface on this, and I'm amazed at how much stuff you've got on there. I mean, how many stories did you say that you've written? How many actual case files have you written so far?
I believe I'm at either 39 or 40 right now.
Cool, and you've got 78 pages on the wiki, so you've almost got double the amount of world building.
Yeah, wiki. Correct.
So
exactly.
So I can't recommend people go there enough. It is a really interesting read. But
exactly.
That's no problem. Sorry, you go for it.
Oh yeah, sorry. I did find the illustrator's name that I have doing the book, so I did want to plug her real quick.
Go for it.
Her username on Reddit is Anerarith. Let me spell that out for you real quick. INARIRAITH.
Nice.
So she's the girl who did all my illustrations for me. She does this professionally. She's actually working on some stuff for my YouTube, which I didn't plug because it's just video game stuff. My spare time.
You can plug it if you want.
Oh, it's okay. It's just organizing secrets on YouTube, and I play games about giant robots, wrestling, and Sonic the Hedgehog. Hey. It's nothing special. It's not really related to my case files, but if you want to see me talk about giant robots for hours, that's where that's at. But she's doing a lot of art for me. She did it free of charge for me. I'm actually hoping, I've been saving up money, and I'm going to pay her back because 40 or so professionally done drawings, illustrations she did for me. And I can't accept that for free, so I'm working on it for her. And she does do this for a living, so if anyone else is listening and you need artwork or illustrations, please message her on Reddit and see if you can get anything working with her. I tell you, she's top notch.
Nice. well, thanks a lot, man. As I say, it's been great talking to you, and yeah, as I say, keep an eye out for the Case File series on No Sleep. It is pretty epic.
Appreciate it.
No worries. There you go. That's organising secrets. As I said before, please check out his wiki, please check out his writing. The Case File series is really enjoyable and well worth a read. As for me, as always, check us out at insertpastapunhere.com or on Facebook at facebook.com/insertpastapunhere, and like and subscribe, because I thrive on like and subscribes, not in a financial sense, but more in a warm feeling inside sense. And I know you all want to give me a warm feeling inside. No worries, guys. Well, I will see you again soon, no doubt. So, see you later.